Recording. Hey everyone, it's Jamie from Independent Street NOLA and Seasons and Ritual, and I'm here with my good buddy, the Crimson Cadaverous, Miss Helen.
Hello.
And we are zooming across New Orleans today because it's Eclipse week.
Yeah, it's Eclipse week. I think that's the best way of putting it.
Yeah, and so we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to kind of talk about the energies of the week and kind of just what we're feeling, and then we'll kind of get more into a little more what do we I always say, like the astrology with the direct mathematics and stuff, but right now I think we're just going to talk a little
The
bit.
details, so to speak.
Yeah, does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great. So
Okay.
I think it's really important that we do kind of just talk about the energy overall, because I think you and I have talked about this a couple of times recently. Like, we're all kind of going through it right now, but it looks like something different to all of us.
Right.
So I think there's something about, like, there's the camaraderie of we're all kind of like in the soup, like
Yeah.
not in a bad way. Like, I know sometimes when you say in the soup, it sounds bad, but sometimes it's like you're just in it.
Right.
But we also have to have the compassion for everyone. Like, everyone's going through it in a different way.
Yep, I agree. And I think that goes back to this idea of compassion that keeps coming up. I don't think that's going to stop coming up. It's going to start showing up in different ways. I remember a couple years ago, we kept trying to talk about being vulnerable and no one understood what the fuck that meant. So
Yeah.
but now that Mars is in Cancer, maybe it'll make more sense.
I think so. And especially these two eclipses, the one we're about to have on Wednesday and then the one we're going to have in 2 weeks, they're both Martian.
Oh yeah, we talked about that.
Right. One is Aries, one is Scorpio. So, but Mars is in Cancer.
Right. And can I just interject 1 second? Mars used to be Scorpio's ancient ruler. So Pluto is now, so we would say Pluto is Mars's modern ruler. And to me, it makes perfect sense that Mars used to be the ancient ruler of Scorpio. But we don't have to get too far in that. But just know that, folks, when she's saying it's a Martian ruled.
Well, and also, it's interesting that you bring up Pluto, because Pluto plays a big part in both of the eclipses as well.
And do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Sure. So with this eclipse that we have coming up, the Aries moon solar eclipse, which is, depending upon where you're at in the world, where we're at, it's very late in the evening, right. Wednesday evening, but could be like Thursday morning, depending. It is going to be at the 29th degree, very, very, like 29 degrees in like 50 minutes, I think, of Aries. So almost Taurus, but that basically means that it's anoractic degree. It's the degree of mastery.
And can I interrupt you? Hold your thought. When we started out Aries season, it was 0 degrees. The first dark moon was at 0 degrees, and it was the equinox. Or
yes.
Was it the equinox?
Yes. Yeah, it was like within a day of the equinox, I think.
Right. So I find it very interesting that we started out at that karmic turning point, basically 0. The sun was at 0 degree Aries. Now it's, like you said, at the anoractic degree, 29 degrees Aries.
Yes.
And we're having this total solar eclipse.
Yes.
So to me, that is, like, you guys, like we were talking about off camera, by the way, but all this energy, right? We just moved through a bunch of energy in basically 30 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important thing to honor right now, is that, like, whatever flavor of soup you're in right now, we are doing it all very quickly. And it's like, we have to honor the fact that, like, I guess we're on that, like, turbulent ride. And, like, I don't know if I used this metaphor in one of our videos before about, like, I kind of saw before this all came through that there was a beautiful light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, or whatever, like, but it was almost more like being asked, like, do you feel comfortable taking a turbulent flight to get to a beautiful paradise island?
Yeah. And I think that's really beautiful. And let me tell you guys, my experience right now with this eclipse and these things aren't as severe or as turbulent as they have been in the past. Okay, why? Who the fuck knows? What I think it has to do with, like, planets. Other people really might be I always say in it to win it. That's my term, you know, just like they might feel like they're fighting for their lives. Okay. And so just know that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, some people are going to be walking on sunshine and other people are not, you know, and that is also part of these eclipse portals coming in. And some days might be super intense and some days may not.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So know that. So please know, like, when we are talking about this stuff, we both know it runs the gambit as far as energy goes.
Yeah.
So Helen's talking about her intense experiences, and I'm just like, I feel great, you know, like it goes, it runs the gambit. It runs the gambit. There have been times when I'm calling Helen and I'm like, are we getting squashed right now by something? And she always talks me off the ledge. So just know it runs the gambit with these energies.
Yeah, and it's definitely, I mean, it definitely feels like a really beautiful energy of like opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's just kind of like we were saying before we got on the call, like it's just kind of, you know, what are you going to choose to do with this energy? You
Right.
know, like, and that's kind of why I brought up like the turbulent flight, where it's like it might be like a little bumpy, but it's
Right.
like you got to have the faith to know it's like bringing you somewhere beautiful.
I agree. I agree. So please continue with Scorpio. You were talking about Scorpio before I
Oh,
interrupted you.
yeah. So, well, mainly Pluto, because Pluto
Pluto,
formed
excuse me.
a sextile with that first Aries new
Mm-hmm.
moon that we had about a month ago. And then it's going to form a square as soon as the moon moves into Taurus, which, you know, is not long after the, you know, solar eclipse,
Right.
will form a square with Pluto. So I've kind of seen, you know, this one as an interesting challenge solar eclipse for like leveling up. And I think I've used the metaphor of kind of like the ring of fire because we are going to have this as a hybrid eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
And certain parts of the world will see it as a ring of fire.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, you know, there's something about Pluto squaring it where he's like challenging us to be like, all right, are you ready to really be in your truth? And like if you are, there's like great rewards with that. Like jump through that ring of fire, like let's get going.
I
So
agree with that.
it's definitely like a level up time. And we've got
Yeah.
the sun squaring Pluto the next day as well.
That's so interesting. I feel
Lots
like
of today.
yeah, I feel like it is, you know, Pluto is transformation. And we've got to transform. We've got to
Yeah.
transform. And just I did a video right before this one. That's why I put my hair up and took my sweatshirt off so it looks like I changed. I'm just kidding. I really did a video, but it wasn't to look like different. But that transformation coming in, right, with with Pluto squaring the sun, you know, I feel like the whole moon energy is about getting back in touch with our intuition and really
Yeah.
trusting our intuition and see how it's going to show up for us differently this time because Saturn has moved into Pisces.
Mm-hmm.
That's setting up a whole new energy with how we work with intuition. And how do we start using it in this age of Aquarius? And so I feel it very interesting. You know, the sun is our masculine that moves. The sun is what moves us. And Pluto is asking, how do we transform that? How do we transmute that old way of what masculine energy looked and felt like and how it interacted with this divine feminine energy that we all have. So I do find that very, very interesting, especially, and I can't say this enough. Well, I'll stop saying it once Mars moves out of Cancer. But Mars is in Cancer.
Yeah.
And
That is, I think that's really important for this story right now.
yeah, you know, especially with like how much you know, just how much things are sort of inflamed, I guess you could say, on the earth or in America.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to like say something about that kind of like fiery energy that we're sitting in right now. Obviously I don't think it's just going to go away completely. You know, we still have some things that we need to kind of like catharsis by fire, so to speak. But with this Aries new moon, we are reaching a culmination point of a period with a lot of planets in Aries. Because then, of course, the sun is about to move into Taurus, and then the moon will move into Taurus that next day. But also, we only will have Jupiter, Eris, and Chiron in Aries anymore. So we went from like 6 planets to 3.
Yeah.
Which, Jupiter, it's still, he's still making things big, but
Yep.
it is actually really important to mention that this new moon will also be conjunct Jupiter and Eris and Chiron. So like, as the sun, as the moon moves towards that conjunction with the sun, meeting up with Chiron, Jupiter, Eris. And I think we're kind of just like culminating that energy we've been working with the Aries stellium of just kind of transforming the self.
I agree. I think with it hitting Eris, Chiron, and Jupiter, you guys, if you are, if it's bringing up super sensitive stories in your life, again, it's not to remind you that you're failing and these stories are here to haunt you. It is bringing these up for you to look at them and for you to say, I don't need to live these stories anymore. These aren't my wounds anymore. Eris is discord. Eris is going to get rid or show or get rid. I'm not real sure how to say it, but Chiron could be that wound, but Chiron could also show you can move on from that. That's not you. In Jupiter, right? That adventurer, he is saying on one hand, it is time for this new adventure. Like, to me, you don't have to keep carrying these wounds. Let the discord happen. Let it go. See where it will take you. But it's really important for us, guys. That's where that compassion comes in again. Compassion for the self. Like, you don't have to have this same story about your life, or you can say, I'm sorry, I keep going back to the story about my life. It's nothing that I really want to carry forward. And so the thing is, though, on the opposite side of that, it's like, okay, I don't want to carry this forward, but what's going to show up?
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes that's where that fear comes in. But again, that's when you go back to Jupiter and you have faith.
Yeah.
That something new is starting, because Jupiter is in Aries and Aries is the beginning.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's definitely really true. I think it's really interesting that right after this Aries new moon, like I mentioned, the sun and the moon move immediately into Taurus. And it's like, so as fiery as this energy is, it's like we're immediately able to like ground down.
I know.
And I think we need that because, this has been a month. Like, it's been a lunar cycle. Let's say that it's not a month, it's a lunar cycle. It's been a lunar cycle. And I think, again, we're all experiencing it in different ways, but we are all experiencing it. And a little bit of grounding, I think, is really important within all that.
I agree. And a
you
little bit of grounding. Yeah. It's just like if you snuff out a cigarette. I don't think people smoke anymore, thank God. But
yeah,
if you do, no judgment.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
We all have to have that thing, right?
Whatevs. Yeah. But yeah, like bringing all that energy and bringing it into the ground, like you said, grounding it. And if you go deeper, then you hit Pluto, right? Because Pluto's the underground.
And it's really interesting. I know popular astrology is like dreading the Mercury retrograde coming up during this.
Oh,
I'm not.
Oh, girl, this might be a whole nother video, but let me tell you something. All this bullshit that's coming up, Mercury retrograde, in the fact that it's all happening when all these court cases are coming up, when it's happening, when we're reviewing how we gerrymandered everything, if you will. Oh, I'm like this with the popcorn.
I think it's going to be actually great. Like, I think it's going to be great for things on the collective scale, like you're talking about. But I think it's also actually going to help ground us because I want to remind everyone that the last 3 months, we had no planets retrograde. No. And let's be honest, it's been bananas. So maybe it's a little okay if we have one of them at least taking a step back.
Helen, that's a really good way, because I never even thought about that. I was looking at it, like you said, in a collective way. But yeah, it's very much in an individual way. Yes.
Yeah. And I think, especially Mercury starting off, the no, like ending the no planets in retrograde thing. Like, it's like, all right, we've had a lot of things go through, but now we need some time to think about it.
Yeah.
Because I think we really do need that time.
Yeah. And just like now that you put it in that way, now you put it that way, which is so smart. Thinking like all the things that I've just like in my life, you know, like I've been lining up and pushing through. It really does seem like a good time to kind of like review everything and let things shake out.
Yeah, I think we need that because
Yeah.
again, a lot has come through, and I think, you know, once we get into this like grounded space where it's like Sun is in Taurus and like a lot of the planets are starting to move in that direction, I think we're going to have a moment because Taurus just wants to chill. You know, let's be honest, Taurus just wants to chill and like kind of just enjoy the earth. And like, I find it really interesting that, okay, so we've got all this Taurus energy coming in. And then on Saturday, you know what Saturday is, right?
Well, I was kind of laughing to myself because I was thinking of all my friends who are high-strung Taurinians. No, what is that? Saturday?
It's Earth Day.
Oh, yay.
And so the moon is in Taurus at the beginning of the day, which of course makes, I mean, the moon, I mean, the fact that Earth Day happens during Taurus season each year, I just think is perfect. I mean,
so
is
beautiful.
it a coincidence? Is anything a coincidence? But
right.
The fact that it's like, okay, so the moon is in Taurus that day,
Mm-hmm.
but then it moves into Gemini, which I feel like is like something about like us kind of maybe being curious about the earth and like just kind of our place in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a nice way, I think, for us to maybe approach Earth Day this year, especially because we do have so much going on.
I agree. And that's one day after Mercury stations retrograde?
Yep. So on Saturday, the 22nd, because like we've got Mercury stationing retrograde Friday, the 21st.
Okay. And I'm reading your notes. And so Mercury is stationing retrograde in Taurus.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
And again, I think that's the best place for Mercury to be, in my opinion.
I agree.
Retrograde, because it's very grounded. And it's like, you know what? We are going to take some time to just think and be.
So when it's, I know we don't have the degrees written down, but will it stay in Taurus the whole time it's retrograde?
Yeah, I think I could be wrong about this, but I think it goes from like 15 degrees back to 5 degrees. So it doesn't ever go back into Aries.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah. So basically, we're just kind of having this like kind of almost like going on vacation. And it's funny because I actually said yesterday, I was like, I feel like I need a vacation, like just like some kind of like, and this is like, I don't want to say, you know, we're off the hook on like, you know, doing the work and stuff like that, but I almost feel like there is a little bit of a reprieve here, which as much as like people usually say there's like an intensity between eclipses, I think it's there, but I think there's also a place for us to find grounding within it.
Where is our full moon on May 5th? Do you know what sign it's in?
That's the one that's in Scorpio. So that's what I'm saying. This whole eclipse season is Martian and kind of Pluto.
Yeah, you just told me that too.
That's all right.
Okay, thanks.
I can't remember I could not remember this morning how old I was. I'm going to admit to that.
That's
I was like, am I 38? I'm like, wait, no, I'm 39. Whoops.
Tomato, tomato, friend. Yeah. Tomato, tomato.
I mean, time is whatever.
Right. We know that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the overall thing about this week is like finding as much as we can to be grounded in, but also being courageous enough to take those leaps, to know that we are kind of leveling up, that we're going through this energy for a reason. It's not just to like bombard us. Like it's going somewhere and we should want to go with it.
And really like, and I'm thinking about too, like and really because this Mercury goes retrograde, I think it goes back to kind of what we touched on. It's going to give us time to look at these old stories that maybe we're really not paying a lot of attention to in our heads, you know, because we have done so much work.
Yeah.
And so, and like people that I see that come in, they've done so much work. And so what we do is we kind of go over and we kind of still slow it down again and see like, is there still a little bit of a story that you go through first before you get to the happy ending?
Right.
And so it's this idea that, oh, wait, we can just go ahead and jump forward to the happy ending. We don't have to struggle it out.
Right.
It's important if we, and I'm speaking for my own self too. You know, I always tell people I'm just not gliding on a carpet, you know, meditating and going through, here I am, ding,
wouldn't that be nice, right?
I'll pick you up if I do. You look outside your window, I'm tapping on your window, sitting on a carpet.
Nice. That sounds fun.
Yeah. So, I mean,
at this point, if you literally tried to take me on a magic carpet ride, I'd be like, that kind of makes sense. Everything else is bananas. Let's do it.
Thanks, James. Just hop on in. Yeah. Okay.
The most important message that I've gotten personally from my guides about like this entire week is that it's fine, that we're fine. Like, it's just, we're moving into something new, and like, we just don't know what it quite is yet because we're creating it for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And so if that idea makes you worried or scared, or like, what if something bad is gonna come in, or like, what if this is when shitty energy moves in, and okay, it's important for you guys to remember that the way the planets are lining up and the way energy has moved, especially with Saturn, to me, and I'm not sorry I keep saying this, especially how Saturn has moved into Pisces, that is making things stable. So we won't fall into a fake illusion. We're really going to get facts. Like, things are changing so we can level up. So
yeah.
And if you guys do feel some fear from this, you can always reach out to me and Helen. We're more than happy to with you guys. So but that's also important when you take these times out, because you can see in your own life where things have gotten better, and then maybe a perspective on some other things, they could still get a little better, but it's all about getting the stability. But it's also remembering the planets are moving around for us to allow more love to come in, to allow more peace to come in, to allow more authenticity to come in.
I agree. And I think, it's almost kind of like sometimes when you like clean out your closet, you like find all these things either that you forgot about, and that's exciting, but you also find all these things that you're like, why do I even have this? And I need to get rid of it. Now Helen, I have more space.
I feel like you're targeting me. I feel like
I feel like I'm targeting everybody, because in some way, I know that I'm always like a very big minimalist, but
I know
it's like something I'm still getting rid of, even if it's just a metaphorical closet. So
I definitely need to clean out my metaphorical closet.
Yeah, and I think honestly, that's what the energy right now, I don't want to say is forcing. Forcing is not the right word, but it is very strongly nudging us to release.
Right, because if you were to build your fucking dream closet, what would it look like?
Yeah.
What would you bring from the old closet into the dream closet, if anything at all?
Right. Well, and I think, I kind of wanted to reflect upon that card pull that I had earlier this week that I talked to you about.
Yeah.
Where I pulled what would be like meme-tastic, the like quote unquote worst cards, but I don't feel that way. I do not feel that way. I pulled the Tower and I pulled the 10 of Swords.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, Age of Pisces, who would have been like, oh my God, everything's going to come falling down, blah, 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 blah.
Pack your bags. You're out of here.
I've never read the Tower that way. I've always seen it as the card that precedes hope, basically, the star. That sometimes the Tower needs to shine, like come down, so that star can shine down on you and you can rejuvenate.
I agree.
Whenever a tower is coming down around you, it's coming down because it was built on a faulty foundation, because it wasn't right, because you didn't even like the kitchen anyways. Now you can build something better. And there's something to me about like also like pulling the 10 of Swords with it to basically say that like this is all temporary.
Right. And I read that 10 of Swords is bringing in a new way of thinking. Like, that old way of thinking is over or dead, however you want to see it. I mean, 10 Swords. Yeah.
Yeah. I think in a way, like I pulled that sort of for myself, but I kind of pulled it for the collective. Like, that is where we are. Like, I mean, I hate to say that this is a Tower moment, but I think it's our decision to say, is the Tower an opportunity, or is it something I'm going to sit here in the rubble and like cry about, the kitchen I didn't like anyways.
The damn sink never worked anyway.
Right. And that's, I think, again, we have to start seeing these things like opportunities when something gets taken out of our life. it's not because we did something bad or like, you know, we're cursed or something's horrible. It's because it was meant to leave so something new can come in.
Right. And it's important too when we are asking for these prayers or setting intentions or having these meditations or however you guys work with this, they don't always come in like how we think they're going to come in. And that's
Yeah.
kind of where like this surrender has to happen, and then other things at the same time. I was going to go on a little bit more about that when you were at the tower. So if you are trying to manifest or have something come in and it's still in that structure of that old tower and it's not coming in, let that tower fall and then bring in this new way of thinking, because it's going to show you how to get there easily with this new energy, because we are in a new energy. And I was going to say too, with that 10 of swords, you know, swords is air and Aquarius is air.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like ending that old way of thinking and bringing in this new air.
Right. I mean, I think it's all about understanding that something ending, especially if it's not for you anymore, isn't a bad thing, that it's an opportunity moment.
Yeah.
And I think there's something about that we're learning right now. And like, especially with this at 29 degrees of Aries, it's like we're internalizing that in ourselves, like understanding that like we're always changing, we're always shifting.
Yeah. I mean, scientifically, don't we like shed all our skin every 7 years or some shit?
Yeah. I mean, if no one changed, we would not exist. Like, because, you know, things have to happen for things to grow.
Right. And on that note, we're seeing where things haven't changed and they're not growing. They're actually dying.
Yeah, and I think it's almost like those things are kind of being excavated right now. Like they're all being brought up. You know, we may have tried to like cover them up, whatever. They're being brought up so that we can either heal them, release them,
or
fix
both.
them, whatever.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to touch on a little bit with this?
It basically covers what I really wanted to talk about with this week, because I think everything that's going on is kind of just supported by these few days in the middle of the week of like just kind of this leap forward that we're taking.
I agree. And you guys, you know, if you don't know, but Helen writes on her Instagram every day about where the planets are. So she's at the Crimson Cadaverous on Insta. So if you guys, because we just kind of wanted to go over the what would you say, not the theme, but kind of the feelings of the week, because it is going to be so personal, I would say, you know.
It's gonna be personal, and I don't think just on Wednesday we're going to feel the eclipse. You know what I mean? So I think it's better to almost talk about just the overall energy.
Yep, I agree. Sorry, I'm over here. This is the energy of the eclipse. Me effing around with this effing left laptop. So preview. It's a preview. But see, now we're settled. Okay, guys. If you want to reach out to me and Helen, you can do that via Instagram or YouTube. And if you guys ever want to set up a session with us, you can do the same. I went ahead and did a video for the eclipse, so that's already out. So it goes in with the dark moon as well. Until then, if you guys have questions, you know how to get in touch with us. Thank you, Helen, for Zooming.
Yay.
She's in the would you consider yourself the French Quarter?
No, this is Mariny.
Okay. And I'm in the Irish channel, so keeping it down, holding it down from the Mariny and the Irish channel.
Yep.
Okay, friends, till next time, have a great week. Happy eclipse season.
All righty.
Okay, see you then. Bye.